Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the first CITI program webinar. Today's topic is GDPR and human subject research, and it will be presented by Cindy Gates. Now, let me tell you about today's presenter, Cindy Gates. As Director of the Institutional Review Board Administration at UC Davis, Cindy Gates oversees 4 research review committees and a professional support team. Collectively, they are responsible for protecting the rights, safety, and welfare of human subjects involved in research at the university. She has over 15 years' experience in human subjects protections. Prior to joining UC Davis in 2013, Cindy was with WERB, where she served as Vice President of Operations. Now, let me pass the mic to you, Cindy.
So this webinar will cover these topics, and you should be able to understand when the GDPR applies and your obligations under this regulation by when this webinar is finished. Now, I need to explain this is a new regulation, and so there's a little bit of guidance, not much, and there is no case law. So this is my interpretation, and it should not be considered legal advice. So like I said, this is a European law, and it's intended to protect the privacy of people in Europe. So why do we even care about this law? Well, you probably wouldn't be on this webinar if you didn't know the answer to this question. The GDPR protects personal data of people who are in the European Union and the European Economic Area. The GDPR also protects personal data by an entity in the EU EEA or a company in the EU EEA, regardless of where the individuals where they're protecting personal data live. And so it has a wide spread that way. And here is the EU EEA countries. Now, in some documents, it refers to just the EEA, meaning the EU and the EEA. But in other documents, it is the EU/EEA. And so in these slides, I'm going to use the EU/EEA, but if you read other areas, you might see just the EEA. The European Economic Area is the group of countries that are not really part of the EU, but they've signed on to certain parts of the EU directives. And so these countries decided that they would be part of this privacy law. So as you can see, the GDPR, again, has broad implications, especially for researchers who collect data on the behavior of individuals who are in Europe. It also can impact researchers who conduct clinical investigations for sponsors when those sponsors are located in the EU EEA. And I know here at UC Davis, we have several sponsors who their main office is in Europe somewhere. To help everyone gain a better understanding of the applicability of the GDPR, I want to consider several scenarios and let you think about those. And we can all determine together whether or not the GDPR applies. So I do have an example up here now is a university with an online education program that targets individuals from the EU EEA as students for enrollment. That is subject to the GDPR because they're targeting people in Europe. So here, suppose you have a sponsor that's established in Germany, and this sponsor is enrolling subjects in a clinical trial. Subjects include individuals who are located in and reside in the US. So suppose this sponsor has contracted with investigators to enroll subjects in the US. Do you think the GDPR applies to this? Well, I said earlier, if the sponsor company is established in the EU, then the GDPR will apply. And so here's a little checklist when you're trying to figure out whether the GDPR applies. If 2 of the following are checked. So one is they're collecting personal data of living individuals, and I'll describe what personal data is in a few minutes. And data subjects are located in the EU EEA, or the data are processed by an organization established in the EU EEA. So under this scenario, the German company is located in the EU EEA, and that's where the data are processed. And so they're collecting personal data, maybe through a third party, but they're getting this personal data and they're processing it in the EU EEA.
Great. That was great, Cindy, and very helpful and informative. We have time for just a few questions from the audience that I will share. The first question for you, must companies appoint a data privacy officer?
Okay. Well, for that question, the European Union does talk about in the GDPR this data privacy officer. And one thing you're going to get from sponsors who are in the EU is request for this data privacy officer. And in my experience, what I've seen, it's the PI who's considered the data privacy officer, according to the sponsor. That's the name they put in there. And the data privacy officer is this person who will help subjects exercise their rights or listen to the subject's complaints. And they might have another role, such as ensuring that privacy by design and everything is all followed. But there's no actual requirement for people in the US to have this data privacy officer. It's just a good idea that you have someone who can do all that. Here at UC Davis, the data privacy officer is the privacy officer that we have. And so they've taken over that role on behalf of the institution. And so whenever I get a consent document that has all that GDPR stuff in it, I look at who the data privacy officer is and change it to the correct person.
Thank you, everybody, for attending today, and thank you especially, Cindy, for presenting.